Hi, Mark here from PondAlgaeSolutions.com. Question came in, and I'd like to try to answer that in this video. The question is too much algae in a pond bad for fish? And the answer to that is generally a little bit of algae here and there, a few weeds here and there, some vegetation is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing for fish in some respects. It can provide them protective cover from predators and provide some nice breeding habitat. But specifically to this question, if the algae or weed, duckweed, watermeal, whatever, gets too heavy, gets too widespread, too prolific, it can be both a blessing and a curse because it adds a lot of instability into the pond environment. What I mean by that is during the day, any plant growth that's receiving sunlight and going through photosynthesis will release oxygen into the water as it's doing well and getting the sunlight that it needs. However, the reverse is true at night. When the sun goes down and it loses the photosynthesis, in a sense, these plants do a minor die-off, if you will. And as they do that, their respiration changes and they start to pull oxygen from the water. And if you have an environment that is already sort of borderline for oxygen levels, dissolved oxygen levels, you can see an oxygen crash because of this increase of vegetation pulling extra oxygen. It also usually happens during very hot weather. And so you have to be very careful when you have algae blooms or weed problems and very hot conditions in an unaerated pond. That is a recipe for disaster at times. Not all the time, but the risk is greater then. And the algae does certainly lead to this instability. It also affects the pH levels and brings some instability to the pH levels. Typically, I don't see that as big of a problem for fish as oxygen. But ideally, you want to keep algae and weed growth at least checked to some balanced level, to some reasonable level without it becoming overgrown and overabundant to where it just chokes off a pond environment. And of course, we've done many videos on ways that you can do this. But the simple answer is that too much algae could be problematic for fish. Not always, but it certainly could lead to problems and instability in the ecosystem that you really don't want to deal with. And so I hope that answers your question. And as always, if you have other questions come up, just reach out to us at PondAlgaeSolutions.com. We're happy to help, and I hope you have a great day wherever you are.